but both our teams lost, so it's more just I'm ready to move on to the next one. But I suppose in doing that, let's get week 14 over with. Starting with your Cowboys. Of course, there's Cowboys lost 27-20 to the Cincinnati Bengals. There's plenty to get into there. Again, real quick, big picture. I think we both still recognize it's probably more beneficial to you in the long run if you guys lose. But from the stuff like this happening with the Cardinals over the years, I recognize the discomfort, the pain and misery of stuff like that weird. Like, you blocked a punt, and that helped them. Yeah. It's one of the strangest things that's happened all year. It's right up there with the Hail Mary that happened to Chicago. So that really did feel like what the game came down to. That was like both teams were playing about head-to-head, and then you just needed one momentum switch in one direction or the other. And that happened, and they got Jamar Chase to do Jamar Chase things. And that was kind of all she wrote. Still feel like Cooper Rush is probably the best backup quarterback in the league. And one of the reasons you would get that kind of, some people might think it's a dubious honor, but like some people, is because he's pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But you are still going to occasionally get a bad decision or a bad game. And I feel like this was him finally having a lesser game. It's Cincinnati's kind of renowned for their not great defense, but no, he just wasn't his normal best self. Rico Dowdle, on the other hand, made me think, wow, maybe Rico could be something next year. If you still need to build a few other things around the offense in general, I think, to make the run game work. But I liked the way he moved here. He moved aggressive and deliberate and things like that. It was really, really good to see. So, my rant being over with, what did you really think about this one when you watched it?
The first thought I had to this game was comparing it to the previous game where, with the spin move from Turpin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the Turpin giveth and the Turpin taketh away, right? Because it's like, not that it wasn't him who I don't think touched that one on that play, but it's like that's who it should have gone to. Like it's almost like on special teams, if your name's not Turpin, don't touch the ball. I don't care what else is going on. I don't, And it's kind of ironic, right? Because at the same time, the very spin move play, Turpin dropped the ball. So it's not like he's some special teams hero. But it was, I think the game was that close. We've talked all year about how the Bengals are much better in theory and principle than their record suggests. Whereas I really do kind of feel like ultimately the Cowboys might be a little bit better than their record suggests, but we're pretty much right there. I think our 1-6 home record is almost inexplicable at this point, right? I just think that we're particularly unlucky at home for whatever reason this particular year. 8 losses, 6 of them are at home. I wonder how many other teams are in a similar boat. It's worth looking. But, yeah, the Rico Dowdle thing, what a great game for him. I'm sure he had a blast. It is the Bengals. So it's like, how much do I weigh where he's really at developmentally? It did kind of strike me that the Bengals' defensive strategy was, hey, let's control Cooper, and whatever Rico gets, he gets, right? Let's just keep him out of the end zone, which ultimately they did. I do like his development. I think that he is he's becoming more creative and more patient in his runs. Like, hey, there's not a hole. There's not a hole. There's the hole. And then go kind of a thing rather than just head down, just kind of charge right in there. So there's a lot of positive development. And look, since we're already looking at next season, because I don't think we're catching Washington or Philly, although we have very winnable schedule in front of us on some level. I think going in, looking towards next year, we have a lot of positive young players, both on the line as well as with potentially Rico going forward. I think the bigger surprise maybe was I didn't feel like our defense, obviously on a passing standpoint, we had no ability to stop Jamar Chase, or really I felt like it wasn't just stop, it was slow down. We weren't just giving him 10-yard passes, right? It was like we really struggled. Now, we're obviously not the only team in the league to have that problem, but and my hat's off to Joe Burrow, as always. He looks amazing. So I don't know. I think that the team played well, just couldn't quite get it done. I was expecting us to get to the quarterback more often and apply more pressure, just because I feel like we have been doing that. So again, my hat's off to Cincinnati and their protection scheme, and also their ability to get kind of the ball out quickly when necessary, because they really didn't have a running game. So it was just a passing game. I was surprised that we didn't get to the quarterback more. I do feel like this game was like a one mistake kind of game, and I think we ended up making that very odd mistake, but they got it done. What else did you see in this one that was kind of intriguing, if anything?
You were talking about not getting to the quarterback, and it's true, only got to him twice, but even just in what I saw a couple of times where there were like you guys won the penalty battle, but by a wide margin. And some of those penalties that I saw were holding calls on the O-line, because they were just like, we're going to keep Joe on his feet. We're not going to let Michael Parsons wreck this game. If we got to hold him, we got to hold him, but don't let him get to him. And I think he drew 2 or 3 holding calls. So, those don't show up in the sack stat sheet, but it's pretty darn close. Unfortunately, they're the kind of team that doesn't really care entirely if it's 3rd and 20 or 3rd and 2. They're passing, they've got guys like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, so they can make one of those plays happen. But I think that your pass rush did more than the sacks will show up, will show on their own. Obviously, they weren't able to do enough because, again, he had almost 400 yards, right? But still, you guys still have some there. I've been hearing more and more that, talk about the future, that next year's draft has a lot of, like, it's pretty weak when it comes to quarterback, and it's pretty weak when it comes to wide receiver. There's a couple of guys here and there, but it's not very deep in those positions. But there are a lot of trench guys on both sides of the ball, and that'll be good for a lot of teams. Cardinals certainly, but Cowboys maybe as well. Mike Parsons is great, but I keep wanting to say Jennifer Lawrence, and I'm like, no, I don't think that she's running the edge on the other side. And it's not Dexter Lawrence. What's it?
Right.
Demarcus Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yep. Demarcus Lawrence is kind of faded a bit. I don't know if he's lost a step or something. It's just not working as well.
Injured.
Maybe he's been fighting an injury the whole year. I'm not sure. I know a lot of guys, they get injured enough to slow them down, but not injured enough to take them off the field. So could be. But you could definitely reinforce that moving forward. But anyway, so there were definitely some positives here. And to reiterate, I did really like what I saw from Dowdle, and it kind of changed my mind on him a little bit. I think I'd love to see him have maybe a game or two more, maybe not 131 yards, but where he gets up right around 100 anyway over the last 4 games, excuse me, and that had really helped. So. I did think, coming out of this one, man, y'all are, as much as y'all are reeling right now, I do think you're just a couple of 3 pieces away from really being relevant again next season. And that could be doable. We'll see how the checkbook feels and Jerry's hands and all that noise. But yeah, so unless you have any closing thoughts on this one, I think that's about all I've really got on it. So anything else?
No, I mean, I think that's interesting. And I'd be surprised, I think, a little bit. You know how Jerry is with keeping the same people around. He's kind of a loyalty guy, and I appreciate that. But, DeMarcus Lawrence has been injured a lot this year. And it's not that he's not valuable when he's healthy, but he's 32. His contract clears up a lot of space for other potential pieces. So I'll be a little bit surprised if we see him again next year. He's been a great member of the Cowboys, but I think there's a lot of teams that will find use for him, and who knows, maybe he'll have some huge resurgent year, but he's definitely been paid with us. So, we'll see how that turns out. No, I'll be very interested to see how we play in the next game going forward, see how we kind of wrap up the end of the season here. But we'll see how the Cowboys do.